Now, in the very opening of the Aseret Dibros, we have, obviously, the Pasuk Anochi. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Hotzisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Klotz Kasha right away. The Eibishter's opening up, telling us Aseret Dibros, a.k.a. the 10 commandments, 10 utterances, maybe is a better way of saying it. And he's saying, well, I'm giving you these mitzvahs, these commandments, and you should listen to me. Why? Because I took you out of Mitzrayim. Okay, fair. Is that the biggest claim to authority that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, that he took us out of Mitzrayim? How about, Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher barasi shamayim va'aretz? I am Hashem, your God, who created the heavens and earth. That's surely a bigger claim to authority than I took you out of Egypt. And obviously there's the obvious answer, which is that Yitzias Mitzrayim is something that these people, the Eibishter was talking to Klal Yisrael at Matan Torah at Har Sinai, and these people just left Mitzrayim. So telling the Yidden, Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher barasi shamayim va'aretz, yes, it's a bigger claim to authority, but it was also a long time ago. No one there experienced it firsthand. Yitzias Mitzrayim is something that these people experienced firsthand, so it's more tangible. Makes a lot of sense. And Al Pi Pshat, it's a 100% solid, good answer. But knowing the degree and the depth to which Torah is emes and precise, it must be that it's not just Pshat. There's got to be something else also deeper about the fact that the Eibishter chooses Asher Hotzisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim as opposed to Asher Barasi Shamayim Va'aretz, which would have been a far greater claim to authority. B'chlal, each of us is capable of different things. Some of us have greater strength in different areas to each other. We have different strengths to each other, different weaknesses to each other. And the reason we have different strengths and weaknesses is because we're born with different koiches, different abilities. And our ability is an ability, makes us able to do something. The greater our ability, the greater our capacity to achieve and to get things done. And if one person has greater, let's say, academic ability, they will be able to achieve more in Limud HaTorah. If someone else has a greater social abilities, they may be able to achieve more in Avos Yisrael, in Gemilas Chasodim, etc., etc. So each of us, and it could even be, let's say, that there's someone who is a real Yotze Min HaKlal Muchshar, someone who has incredible abilities, a hypothetical person who is better at everything than everyone else in the world that ever lived since Sheshis Yemei Bereshis. Hypothetical person. Even this person who's the best at everything is still only the best at everything because they were born, because the Eibishter gave them this specific, unique combination of koiches, of abilities. And it's those abilities that give them the capacity to achieve in proportion to those abilities. And therefore, what they can achieve may be greater than anyone else, but it's still going to be limited in proportion to the koiches that they have. So every single person has limitations on what we can achieve. And this is true both at the level of the guf, of the body, the physical capacity, the physical abilities of our body, and of the nefesh. Right, we say every morning in Birchas HaShachar and numerous times throughout the day, Rofei chol basar mafli lasos. Rofei chol basar, the Eibishter heals all flesh, or mafli lasos, and does wonders, let's say. It's probably the closest English translation. It's not exact, but does wonders. Obviously, the pshat that it's talking about is the wonders in the body. If you'd start to learn a tiny little bit of biology, it's not a wonder when someone's not feeling well. The number of things that have to work in perfect, unimaginable precision in the body for any organism, certainly a person to be alive for an instant, is just, the probability is impossible. So the fact that we're alive is mafli lasos. The Eibishter does wonders that we're alive. But there's another layer of meaning in mafli lasos. Every single one of us is a combination of a guf and a nefesh. We have a body. A body is effectively just a bunch of steak, really, right? A body plus a neshama is a person who's alive, breathes, neshama. So, and both of these things that make us up, we have a guf and a nefesh, each of them has a specific characteristics and specific abilities. So we have limitations on what we can achieve based on the characteristics of our guf, of our body. We have limitations on what we can achieve based on the characteristics of our nefesh, of our neshama. But before we were even created, there are already layers of limitations on what can be achieved. Right? One of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Makom. The Eibishter is called Makom. If you look in a Hebrew English Siddur, generally the translation of Makom is omnipresent. Present everywhere. The Eibishter is present everywhere. That's not technically a correct translation of the name Makom. Now, I'm not suggesting that I have a better alternative, because to do it more precisely would need like a paragraph, and that's obviously not an option. But there's a medrash that says, Lama nikra shmoi Makom. Why is the Eibishter called Makom? Mipnei shehu makomei shel olam ve'ein ha'olam makomei. Omnipresent means the Eibishter exists in every point in space. The Eibishter is present everywhere. That's technically true, but that's not what Makom means. Makom means that the Eibishter was there before space even existed. The Eibishter says, I have a taiva, I want to have a world. I want to have Yidden, I want to have Bnei Adam, I want to have Klal Yisrael, I want to have Torah, I want to have mitzvahs. Fine, so where does the world exist? The world exists inside of time and space. So the Eibishter creates time, the Eibishter creates space. The Eibishter called Makom because Hu Makom Shel Olam, the Eibishter was there before space existed, before there was Makom. Then the Eibishter decided to create space, so now space exists inside of the Eibishter. Hu Makom Shel Olam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the location within which space exists. Ein ha'olam makomei. He doesn't exist in space. Space exists in him. So while it's true that the Eibishter is present in every point in space, that's not what Makom means. That's an outcome of Makom. Makom is that every point in space exists in the Eibishter. As a result, obviously, he's present in every point in space, so he's omnipresent. But we think of time and space as being these things that are abstract and just absolute. Time and space are not absolute. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them. Before HaKadosh Baruch Hu created time and space, there were no limitations of space and there were no limitations of time. The Eibishter created this framework of time, which places limitations on the way things work. The Eibishter created space, Makom, which places more restrictions on the way things work. Then created Teva Ha'olam, which the nature of the world in every part of nature places more and more limitations on what can be done, on what we can do, what we can achieve. Then he gives each of us a specific guf, a specific nefesh, which gives us more and more limitations on what we can achieve. So I'm not, chas v'shalom, trying to play down what we can achieve. Every single one of us is capable of incredible things. But lefi erech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, lefi erech infinity, it's nothing. There are so many layers of limitation on what we can achieve just as physical human beings. But the Eibishter created all of this and put us here for a reason, and the reason was to achieve and to achieve great things. And by Matan Torah, the Eibishter says, now I'm going to change things up. The first word of the Aseret Dibros is Anochi, which is a very unusual word. Lashon HaKodesh, usually for I, you would say Ani. Why does it say Anochi? So in Ein Yaakov it says Anochi is Rosh HaTevos Ano Nafshi Ksavis Yehavis. And the pshat of that is the Eibishter says Ano, I, Nafshi, I myself, Ksavis, have written the Torah, Yehavis, and brought it to you and given it to you. But there's another pshat of reinterpreting the words, and it is that the Eibishter says, Ana, I, nafshi, my nefesh, my inside, my deepest, innermost self, ksavis, have written Yehavis and placed inside these words of Torah. I'm giving you Torah now. Oisi atem loichim, the Medrash says. When you learn Torah, you don't just get the words, you don't just get the ideas, you get me, because I'm inside the ideas. That's why the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Anochi. So when the Eibishter gave us the Torah, he says, now when you learn Torah, now when you're Makayim mitzvahs, oisi atem loichim. You're not limited to achieving based on time and space and your guf and your nefesh. Now you can achieve bli gvul, we can achieve infinity, we can affect all the olamas, we can affect. There's no limit to what we can achieve now through Torah and mitzvahs. Why? Because the Eibishter said, Anochi ano nafshi ksavis Yehavis, I'm giving you myself in Torah. And this gives us the ability to achieve infinity. It gives us the ability to really become infinite. When we give ourselves over to Torah and mitzvahs, we become part of infinity, literally. And now the Eibishter says, Anochi Hashem Alekecha Ana Nafshi Ksavis Yehavis Asher Hotzesicha Me'eres Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the same word with different nekudas as Meitzarim. The Eibishter says, I'm giving you myself now. Now that you have me, now that when you learn Torah, you're Makayim mitzvahs, you obtain me, oisi atem loichim. Now, Asher Etzisech Meretz Mitzrayim. Now, with Torah mitzvahs, you can go out of all Meitzorim v'Hagbalos. You can transcend time. You can transcend the limitations of space, the limitations of your guf, the limitations of nefesh, the limitations of everything. Because in Torah, we have the creator of all of those limitations. The one who created the limitations says, now in Torah and mitzvahs, you have me. And that's why it says, Asher Etzisech Meretz Mitzrayim. Because the Eibishter is telling us that Torah is literally the key to infinity. Torah gives us the ability to become infinite, to become part of the ultimate infinity, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. And Be'ezus Hashem, in the schus of Torah and mitzvahs, we should be zeicher to experience the ultimate infinity.